They say there is a shape older than the gods, a pattern whispered by lightning, echoed in the heartbeat of the cosmos. You have seen it, though not with your eyes. It hides in dreams, in ruins, in the silence between thoughts. It has watched humanity since the first spark of fire, carving its reflection into our stories and our bones. 8 arms, infinite directions, one truth. Those who understand it do not speak of it. Those who follow it do not return unchanged. For this is not merely a symbol. It is the memory of creation, the star of chaos. In the beginning, before empires rose and faiths were carved into stone, there existed a mark whispered only in the language of storms, the star of chaos. 8 points diverging from a single core, reaching outward as if to grasp infinity itself. You must understand, it was never just geometry. It was memory, the remembrance of creation's first fracture. Across the dust of forgotten worlds, it shimmered unseen, an echo older than the gods who would later claim its meaning. And in that radiant disarray, humanity would one day find its mirror, the reflection of both ruin and revelation intertwined. What many don't see is that symbols outlive civilizations. They carry memory, like veins carry blood. The star of chaos breathes through history, its shape repeating in the margins of clay tablets, in the ashes of fallen temples, in the trembling sketches of prophets who dared to dream beyond order. Long before any empire dared to speak its name, the star was known by instinct, felt in the pulse of those who stared too long into the unknown. It whispered of movement, without boundary, of creation, unrestrained by law. Through its symmetry, it promised freedom, but beneath it, the seeds of undoing. Throughout history, mankind has feared the unknown, but worshipped it all the same. The star became a vessel for that paradox, a beacon for seekers and a curse for the content. Those who gazed upon its form saw both destiny and disaster reflected within. Each point a direction, each direction a decision. It is said the ancients viewed it not as evil, but as truth unfiltered, the cosmic admission that creation and destruction are siblings, not enemies. Even now you can feel it, the pull between opposites, the seductive hum of disorder, calling through the quiet veil of human certainty. Philosophers once argued whether the star was born of divinity or defiance, perhaps both. For the act of reaching outward, of expanding beyond the center, is the first rebellion against stillness. The ancients believed that the moment the universe spoke itself into existence, the pattern of the eightfold burst was imprinted upon its breath. It was the exhale of becoming, the sacred shape of change. And so the star of chaos does not oppose creation. It defines it. For without expansion, there is only silence. Without divergence, there is only void. You must understand, order is not the absence of chaos. It is its shadow. In the deep sands of Mesopotamia, fragments of the 8-pointed form lingered long before the word chaos carried its modern dread. The priestesses of Ishtar marked it upon their wrists, not in reverence of ruin, but in celebration of divine fullness. To them the star meant fertility, the endless cycle of death-feeding life. Yet even there, in their joy, the symbol whispered darker truths. It warned that creation demands sacrifice, that every bloom consumes another's decay. Thus, from the first dawns of civilization, humanity learned to smile beneath a sign that promised abundance, while quietly teaching that nothing grows without breaking. You must understand, every age reinterprets the eternal. When the Babylonians looked upon the eightfold star, they saw divine union. When the Magi of Persia studied its lines, they traced the balance of cosmic winds. And when the mystics of Alexandria sought its meaning, they whispered of portals, of gateways between the seen and unseen. Yet in all these forms, one truth endures. The star points outward, forever away from its heart. It is motion. It is exile. It is desire made visible. Through its geometry, it reveals the paradox of the soul, that to reach enlightenment, one must first dissolve. As centuries bled into myth, the star of chaos found itself entangled in secrecy. Hidden within grimoires, carved beneath altar stones, it became a mark for those who believed knowledge was meant to be dangerous. The Gnostics saw it as the map of the aeons, the unfolding of divine intellect through fragmentation. The Hermetics called it the wheel of transformation, where each point was an element of becoming. Scholars debated whether it symbolized creation's dance or its disintegration, but the wise understood both are the same act, mirrored from different sides of the eternal fire. The star burns for both. What many don't see is that the star of chaos is not a symbol of evil. It is a confession. It speaks the truth the cosmos hides. That order is fragile, temporary, a surface tension above infinite turbulence. The ancients knew this, which is why they feared the symbol, but never destroyed it. They saw in it the cycle of all things, the spiraling of galaxies, the trembling of atoms, the heartbeat that begins and ends within the same pulse. It was never blasphemy. It was the divine equation laid bare, the sacred reminder that perfection cannot endure without breaking apart. Throughout history, the symbol re-emerged whenever humanity reached too far. It surfaced during times of discovery, rebellion, revelation, engraved upon lost temples, etched on celestial maps, burned into the dreams of visionaries. It became the icon of those who sought to pierce the illusion of permanence. For the star does not belong to any faith, though all have tried to claim it. It belongs to the motion beneath faith, the pulse that drives both saints and sinners to seek meaning in the void. To trace its shape is to admit one's place within the storm, to remember that chaos is not enemy but origin. And so, as the curtain of history rises, we begin our journey through the hidden chronicle of the star of chaos, not as mere onlookers, but as participants in its endless unfolding. Every civilization has touched it. Every religion has feared it. Every soul has felt its whisper in moments of uncertainty and awe. This is not a tale of darkness conquering light. It is a revelation of their eternal embrace. You must understand, to know the star is to know yourself. For within its eightfold reach lies the truth that all creation begins, not in harmony, but in beautiful, radiant disorder. Long before kingdoms bowed to scripture and theologies hardened into dogma, the star of chaos shimmered across the threshold of ancient night. In the valley where Sumer met the whispering marshes of Eridu, priests of a forgotten dawn carved its 8 arms into stone tablets, believing them to be the map of divine storms. You must understand, to them it was not destruction, it was genesis. Each point symbolized a primal current: wind, fire, blood, and shadow. To gaze upon it was to confront the unbound forces that shaped existence itself. Through these carvings, humanity first recorded its awe of infinity. What many don't see is that the ancients did not separate faith from fear. Their gods were tempests, their prayers, bargains with uncertainty. Within the eightfold geometry, they saw both promise and peril, the assurance that power is never still. The star was their cosmic compass, a sacred reminder that creation's song always trembles near discord. The earliest mystics whispered that it reflected the heavens themselves, 8 rays for 8 wandering lights in the firmament, each motion of the sky a mirror of divine intent. In tracing its lines, the ancients traced the heartbeat of chaos hidden within the cosmos. In Mesopotamian sanctuaries, where incense hung thick as memory, the star's shape adorned the vestments of Ishtar's chosen. They called it the seal of heaven's desire, an emblem not of ruin, but of sacred expansion. Through it, Ishtar's dual nature, love and war, creation and destruction, was understood as one continuous breath. The 8 rays stretched outward, reaching all corners of reality. You must understand, for them, chaos was not sin. It was the pulse of the divine feminine, the womb of all transformation. And in that pulsing rhythm, they sensed a truth the later world would hide. Perfection demands turmoil. Beyond the river kingdoms, the symbol drifted westward into the fertile deltas of Kemet, ancient Egypt. There, scribes etched its form beside hieroglyphs of serpents and suns. They spoke of the Ogdoad, 8 primordial deities born before light. Each represented the raw substance of creation: darkness, water, eternity, and hiddenness. When united, their energies birthed the first dawn. And though their names would fade into sand, their pattern endured, re-emerging as the 8-fold star. It was here that mystics began to see the symbol not merely as divine, but as universal law, the dance between order's fragile structure and chaos's eternal breath. Throughout history, sacred geometry has served as humanity's bridge between matter and spirit. The star of chaos, with its intersecting rays, became one such bridge, an eternal equation written without words. Egyptian magi taught that its symmetry mirrored the balance of life and death, the ceaseless turning of the sun across heaven's vault. In their temples, the star was drawn upon ritual altars during funerary rites, ensuring the soul's safe passage through transformation. The priests did not fear it, they revered it, for to them, chaos was not the end. It was the motion that allowed resurrection, the unseen rhythm of rebirth. As civilizations rose and fell, the star lingered in fragments, on pottery shards, temple mosaics, and the edges of bronze mirrors. In Canaan, it became the hidden sigil of wandering mystics who claimed it depicted the structure of unseen worlds. In Greece, philosophers debated its purpose, linking it to the 8 spheres of the heavens. The Stoics saw in its pattern the perpetual motion of logos, divine reason spiraling into material form. Even then, whispers persisted that the symbol did not originate with gods or men, but from the first tremor of existence, the eternal imbalance that gave rise to creation. What many don't see is that every era tried to own the star, but none could contain it. To the Persians, it was the flame of Ahura Mazda, mirrored in the darkness of Ahriman. To the Druids, it was the wheel of endless seasons, turning through birth and decay. In India, the ancient seers saw its echo within the lotus of 8 petals, the hearts unfolding toward enlightenment. Each culture named it differently, yet all understood the same truth, that beneath every faith lies the same geometry of becoming. The 8-fold symmetry unites all stories of creation beneath its silent radiance. In China, the wisdom of the Bagua echoed the same cosmic pattern. 8 trigrams, each representing heaven and earth, thunder and mountain, fire and water, an eternal dance of opposites bound by harmony. Though its form differed, the essence remained. The ancients saw chaos not as disorder, but as living equilibrium, a flux that sustains existence. The star of chaos, in its universal guise, spoke the same lesson across continents. that conflict births balance, and balance is but a moment before motion. Through it, the East and West unknowingly shared a faith older than all gods, the religion of perpetual becoming. Through the long corridors of time, the star's presence persisted in silence, reappearing where reason failed and mystery reigned. Alchemists of Babylon used its shape to seal their vessels, believing it guarded transformation from corruption. Early astronomers traced its outline across celestial alignments, seeing in it a reflection of the universe's pulse. You must understand, the symbol endures not because of its meaning, but because of its necessity. Every generation rediscovers it, naming it anew, fearing it, adoring it. For chaos is not invented, it is revealed over and over, in the moment humanity dares to understand itself too deeply. Thus, before the birth of modern religions, before prophets divided the divine into heavens and hells, the star of chaos already spun in the fabric of creation. It was the unspoken theology of the ancients, a reminder that life itself is tension held in grace. The eightfold pattern breathed through stone and fire, through song and blood. It became the compass of existence, each ray a direction in the vastness of possibility. And though its names changed, its essence did not. For the symbol does not evolve. We do. And in our evolution, we continuously rediscover the star we already are. To understand the star of chaos, you must look beneath its light. Beneath geometry and legend lies something older, intent. Every symbol born from the void carries a purpose, and the star's purpose is awakening through dissolution. Within each of its 8 arms resides a whisper of transformation, an uncoiling of what reality hides. Ancient adepts claimed that the star is not drawn. It manifests where human consciousness touches the edges of forbidden comprehension. It is the map of awakening disguised as peril. The uninitiated see destruction, but the wise perceive the reordering of the cosmos through divine imbalance. What many don't see is that the symbol is not passive. It observes the observer. The star of chaos, in its esoteric interpretation, mirrors the mind that studies it. When gazed upon with fear, it reflects ruin. When contemplated with understanding, it reveals the architecture of eternity. Occultists across ages believed its 8-fold arms correspond to 8 gateways of perception, the senses and the unseen faculties that bind spirit to form. To meditate upon the star was to risk dissolution of self. But for the rare few who endured, it offered transcendence beyond duality. The cost, however, was always identity. Throughout history, secret orders adopted the star as emblem and warning. The Chaldean priests engraved it upon obsidian to summon what they called the intelligences of disarray. Egyptian necromancers inked it upon mummy wrappings to confuse malevolent spirits. The Orphic initiates of Greece whispered its geometry in hymns to Dionysus, equating its arms with the tearing and rebirth of the god himself. Each order sought control, yet control was illusion. For the star does not obey, it reflects. It reveals the futility of dominion over chaos, the sacred realization that mastery and surrender are indistinguishable when standing before infinity. You must understand, occult knowledge is never owned. It is endured. Those who studied the star too closely often vanished into obscurity, their writings consumed by rumor and fire. The medieval grimoires called it Stella Anarchia, the star of unbinding. It was said to appear upon the parchment of Magi moments before their downfall, as if mocking their ambition. Alchemists, too, found it hidden within the structure of the philosopher's stone, interpreting its 8 rays as the stages of transformation, calcination, dissolution, separation, conjunction, fermentation, distillation, coagulation, and ascension. Thus the star became the alchemical mirror of human evolution and decay. The Kabbalists of the darkened synagogues saw it as the broken shadow of the Sephiroth, the divine tree reflected in chaos's mirror. Each point, they taught, was a distortion of a sacred emanation, proof that creation's light cannot shine without casting shadow. In their manuscripts, now half lost, they warned, "The eightfold seal is the breath of God inverted." Yet they dared not destroy the symbol, for even inverted truth remains truth. What many don't see is that every revelation demands an echo. The star of chaos is that echo, divine knowledge refracted, split into fragments that test the endurance of faith. In the catacombs beneath forgotten cities, the star was carved alongside symbols of serpents and suns. Archaeologists dismiss these as mere ornament, but those attuned to esoteric language know better. The serpent coils represent the cyclical path of time, the sun the consciousness that journeys through it. The star unites them, a cosmic diagram of movement through transformation. Each ray points toward a threshold, and within those thresholds lie the stages of awakening. The ancients believed that whoever could walk all 8 paths and remain whole would perceive reality as it truly is, not order nor chaos, but living equilibrium. Through the Renaissance, the star's secret re-emerged under new disguises. Artists painted it subtly within halos and cathedral mosaics, concealing ancient heresies beneath sacred veneer. Scholars in Prague's alchemical courts debated whether its 8 arms symbolized the planets or the faculties of divine mind. Occult philosophers called it the diagram of becoming, teaching that it represents the pulse between creation and entropy. Yet none could fully explain its endurance. You must understand, its power does not lie in faith or fear, it lies in recognition. To see the star is to glimpse oneself dispersed and reassembled through the rhythm of the cosmos. Some whispered that the star is not a human invention at all, but an archetype woven into consciousness itself. Jungian mystics centuries later would call it a mandala of the abyss, a symmetrical descent into the psyche's uncharted depths. Its arms spiral outward like thoughts seeking identity, then fold back toward a center that forever escapes capture. Psychologically, it embodies the truth that chaos and order are internal forces, not external gods. The star becomes a mirror of integration. To balance the self, one must first confront the storm within. What many don't see is that every revelation is recursive. Throughout history, the star of chaos haunted the edges of forbidden texts. Monks illuminated it in the margins of apocryphal gospels. Sages encoded it in architectural blueprints of labyrinthine temples. Even astronomers glimpsed it within constellations, tracing its form across the pattern of rotating heavens. The message was always the same. The universe expands in 8-fold motion, spiraling through infinite directions. This is why the star feels familiar when seen. It speaks the geometry of existence itself. Every breath, every heartbeat, every atom obeys this pattern of divergence and return. The symbol survives because reality itself cannot escape its design. And so, the hidden path unfolds. The star of chaos reveals itself not as emblem of destruction, but of divine recursion, the endless return of the self through fragmentation. The ancients called it the map of becoming. Mystics called it the eye of the void. But all names fall away before its meaning. You must understand, the star's true lesson is not in worship, but remembrance. It teaches that chaos is the original order, that within the shattering lies renewal. In the next chapter of history, kingdoms will rise under its shadow, misunderstanding its grace. And misunderstanding, they will call it evil. When the veil between faith and superstition thinned, the star of chaos emerged again, no longer whispered by prophets, but brandished by priests of twilight cults. Across the forests of Europa, beneath oaken crowns and silver moons, its 8 arms burned upon wooden idols. The pagans called it the Wheel of Ruin, yet they did not tremble. They danced around it, chanting of harvest and storm, knowing that chaos was not curse, but catalyst. You must understand, to them, the star was life's heartbeat in motion, an emblem of the world that grows, decays, and grows again. Perfection, they believed, was stagnation. What many don't see is that paganism did not vanish beneath empire. It adapted, cloaking its wisdom beneath new symbols. When the Romans marched through Gaul and Britannia, they found the 8-pointed form scratched upon stones where rivers met the sea. The Druids said it marked the meeting of worlds, the boundary between mortal breath and spirit tide. In these crossings, chaos was a threshold, not a threat. The invaders destroyed the stones, but the symbol endured, etched now in the memories of bards and healers who sang of balance through opposition, and of power drawn from the turning of the wheel. In Greece, philosophers gave the star new meaning. The Pythagoreans traced its geometry and declared it divine proportion incarnate, the universe measured through infinite relation. The Stoics saw in it the eternal recurrence, the endless return of order through disorder. Mystery cults invoked it during rites of initiation, claiming each ray corresponded to a trial of the soul: ignorance, fear, desire, faith, death, transformation, vision, and rebirth. The initiate who crossed all 8 became whole once more. Thus the star of chaos entered philosophy, not as blasphemy, but as revelation disguised in mathematics, the cosmic harmony hidden within disorder's song. In Rome's shadowed catacombs, secret sects carried forward its fire. They called it Stella Discordia, the emblem of divine paradox. To their theologians, the universe was sustained not by peace, but by tension, the sacred struggle between impulse and restraint, chaos and command. These early mystics etched the star upon hidden altars, declaring that every god, whether of war or wisdom, required chaos to move. The empire feared such heresy, for it suggested that no law was eternal. Yet the truth endured in whispers. The star of chaos is not rebellion against the divine. It is the divine's reflection in motion. As centuries darkened, the star passed into the hands of magi. The Hermetic philosophers of Alexandria saw in it a cipher of the cosmos, a synthesis of the elements. Fire, water, air, and earth formed the first 4 rays: spirit, will, void, and form, the next. Together, they composed existence entire. To gaze upon the star during ritual was to invite revelation, that matter and meaning were one, that the divine resided in transformation. You must understand, these adepts were not conjurers of ruin. They were seekers of equilibrium. Chaos to them was the raw material of divinity, awaiting human interpretation. In the grim forests of Germania, warlords bore the symbol upon shields, believing it to summon the favor of storm spirits. Skalds sang of it as the mark of Weird, the 8-fold fate that no blade could defy. Yet even among warriors, it held dual meaning, glory and doom entwined. The symbol's geometry mirrored the Norse cosmology itself. The 8 realms bound around Yggdrasil, the world tree of endless renewal. Each point represented a realm, each arm a path through fate's web. Thus, even in the fury of battle, the warriors bore a theology of chaos, calling destruction merely transformation. What many don't see is that the star united these ancient faiths beneath a single hidden understanding. Whether in the chants of druids, the formulas of philosophers, or the hymns of hermetics, it always spoke of movement, the dance between being and becoming. Pagan altars bore it as a compass of the soul, guiding rituals that aligned human rhythm with cosmic pulse. To call upon chaos was not to summon evil, it was to acknowledge participation in creation's unfinished work. In those early nights of firelight and incantation, the star was the promise that existence itself thrives upon beautiful imperfection. Then came the empire of iron and faith, the rise of monotheism. The old gods fell, but their symbols did not die. They migrated into the undercurrents of ritual, carried by mystics and heretics who refused to forget. In the deserts of Syria, Gnostic sects wove the eightfold pattern into their sigils of light and shadow. They taught that the cosmos was not war between God and devil, but the interplay of both, necessary for creation's motion. They drew the star in sand and whispered, "This is the shape of the divine breath." You must understand, they saw unity beyond division. Throughout the Middle Ages, when the world trembled under the weight of faith and fear, the star of chaos flickered like a forbidden ember. Occult manuscripts described it as octogramma celestis, the celestial mechanism by which the universe renews itself. To the alchemists, it became a wheel of metamorphosis. To the heretics, a symbol of resistance against the tyranny of absolute order. The Church condemned it, yet its geometry appeared in cathedral windows, cloaked in holiness. Artists and mystics alike hid it within divine halos, preserving the truth in plain sight, that even the sacred must borrow its form from chaos. Thus, by the time the medieval world gave birth to science and reason, the star of chaos had already written itself into the human psyche. Pagan, hermetic, Gnostic, it transcended them all. The symbol endured because it answered the question religion feared most: what lies beyond perfection? The ancients answered with 8 arms reaching outward, forever searching, forever incomplete. You must understand, the star is not an emblem of ruin, but of eternal becoming. In the next age, kings will wield it, nations will fear it, and faith will twist it into prophecy. Yet through all distortion, its truth remains unchanged. As empires dawned and gods became governments, the star of chaos shifted from altar to emblem. Kings claimed what mystics once revered. The eightfold mark appeared on royal seals, woven into banners of conquest and faith. You must understand, rulers saw not the star's message of balance, but its promise of dominion. To them, the outward-reaching arms symbolized expansion, authority radiating from divine right. Yet beneath their ambitions, the ancient current still pulsed. For no empire, however righteous, escapes the gravity of chaos. Each conquest mirrored the symbol's law. To grow outward is to risk dissolution from within. In Byzantium's shimmering halls, scholars debated its origin. The emperor's artisans inscribed the 8-rayed form into mosaics beside crosses and eagles. They called it the Star of Renewal, unaware of the deeper paradox. In their pursuit of eternal empire, they borrowed a mark that celebrated impermanence. The theologians, uneasy, declared it an emblem of divine order radiating from God's throne. But the mystics within their ranks saw otherwise. They whispered that the empire's brilliance, like the star's geometry, was born of tension, held together by contradictions unresolved. The symbol became prophecy. The more the empire reached, the more it fractured. What many don't see is that the Middle Ages, while cloaked in piety, were haunted by the star's shadow. Crusaders painted variations of it upon shields, believing it to signify celestial guidance, yet unknowingly they carried a sign of conflict eternal. The star's arms stretched beyond faith, echoing both salvation and destruction. Chroniclers described visions of eightfold lights over battlefields, omens, they said, of divine approval or impending ruin. It became the paradox of devotion. The same symbol that promised victory also foretold collapse. You must understand, chaos does not punish, it balances, and every holy war becomes its own reflection in the void. As the Renaissance dawned, the star was reborn through curiosity rather than conquest. Scholars rediscovered Hermetic texts and saw in its 8 arms the architecture of knowledge itself. Philosophers aligned its points with the compass of human potential: art, science, faith, nature, body, mind, soul, and cosmos. The star became a diagram of possibility, but even in their enlightenment, they missed the hidden warning. Knowledge, like chaos, expands without end. For each discovery births uncertainty. Thus, in the age of reason, the star glimmered not as superstition, but as reminder that order, when pursued without humility, becomes another form of madness. In hidden societies, the symbol took on secret life. Freemasons, Rosicrucians, and alchemists saw in it a key to uniting opposites, the sacred geometry of transformation. Their temples bore the eightfold form subtly carved into pillars and floors. They taught that every arm represented a stage in humanity's ascent toward divine understanding. Yet, even among them, corruption stirred. Some sought power through the symbol rather than wisdom. What many don't see is that every revelation tempts the ego. The star of chaos does not serve ambition, it tests it. Those who chase its glow without humility find only the mirror of their own ruin. Throughout history, religion and science alike borrowed the star's symmetry, mistaking form for meaning. Astronomers used it to map celestial spheres, theologians to illustrate divine emanations. Each believed they'd tamed the symbol, but its essence remained unbroken. For the star is older than both faith and reason. It predates the need to explain. You must understand, it does not belong to intellect or devotion. It belongs to the current between them, the silent law that everything built must one day unbuild itself. The more humanity measured the cosmos, the more the symbol returned to whisper, "You are still within the storm." In medieval cathedrals, light filtering through stained glass shaped the 8-pointed form upon stone floors. The faithful knelt within its projection, unaware of its dual legacy. To them, it was the morning star of redemption. To secret initiates, the gate of opposites. This duality persisted through centuries, faith and heresy sharing the same geometry. In sermons, preachers called it the radiant cross, claiming it marked the triumph of order. Yet beneath their pulpits, masons carved it inverted, preserving the ancient truth. That order cannot exist without its echo. Thus, even holy architecture became a dialogue between chaos and grace. When the Enlightenment challenged the heavens, the star of chaos reappeared as a scientific emblem. Mathematicians admired its balance, calling it the perfect expansion of symmetry. They plotted it through equations describing orbits, harmonics, and probability. Yet unknowingly, they rediscovered the oldest revelation, that the universe itself unfolds in chaos. The same eightfold tension governs galaxies, storms, and thought. What many don't see is that science and mysticism chase the same horizon, understanding the unpredictable. The symbol stood between them like a mirror, reminding both seeker and skeptic that beyond certainty lies the beautiful, trembling rhythm of infinite change. In times of revolution, the star flickered again, this time upon flags and coins. Nations reinterpreted its arms as progress, liberty, and destiny. It adorned the banners of republics and empires alike. Yet every time humanity sought to wield it as a promise, it became a warning. The symbol that once taught humility in the face of creation now crowned monuments of pride. You must understand, chaos is impartial. It answers only truth, not intent. Those who raise it for control are consumed by its lesson, that power without balance is self-destruction disguised as glory. The star endures, but rulers do not. Thus, through conquest, faith, enlightenment, and revolution, the star of chaos transformed yet remained unchanged. Its arms continued to reach outward, reflecting humanity's endless hunger to know, to command, to transcend. But always it returned to the same truth, that every order we build contains the seed of its undoing. The symbol moved from temple to throne, from parchment to philosophy, carrying the same silent message: creation is motion. What many don't see is that the star has no allegiance. It belongs to movement itself, and movement, eternal and ungoverned, is the closest thing the universe has to divinity. By the dawn of empire's golden age, the star of chaos had become a paradox draped in gold. Monarchs wore it upon their crowns, unaware that they bore the mark of impermanence. The symbol that once warned of balance was now mistaken for conquest's glory. You must understand, power always hungers for signs to justify its reach. The star's 8 arms, radiant and symmetrical, seemed divine proof of order, spreading from a single point, the throne itself. Yet, within its geometry, the old truth remained, that what expands too far eventually returns to its origin, broken and unrecognizable. In medieval courts, theologians reinterpreted the star as the radiant crown of virtue. They aligned its points with the cardinal and theological virtues: prudence, justice, temperance, courage, faith, hope, charity, and wisdom. It became a celestial hierarchy rendered into art. But among the cloistered mystics, dissent brewed. They whispered that each ray held a shadow, that virtue without struggle was illusion. To meditate upon the star was to confront both light and abyss. What many don't see is that institutions always polish symbols until they no longer shine. The mystics, defiant, sought the original flame beneath the veneer of sanctity. In Spain, during the fervor of empire and inquisition, the symbol appeared within forbidden manuscripts of the Albigensians and the Cathars. They called it the Wheel of Truth, declaring that no church, no empire could own the cosmos. For that belief, they burned. Their inquisitors saw the eightfold mark as heresy incarnate, a defiance of divine order. Yet even the executioners wore it unknowingly upon their robes, stitched into sacred patterns. The irony was complete. The persecuted and the persecutor both served the same geometry. The star of chaos, impartial and eternal, watched as faith devoured itself in pursuit of purity. As the Renaissance blossomed into empire, explorers carried the symbol across oceans. It adorned the sails of ships bound for conquest, the coins that funded their journeys, and the cathedrals built upon stolen lands. The eightfold star, once a guide to balance, became an emblem of destiny. Monarchs claimed divine sanction for their expansion, pointing to the symbol as proof of providence. Yet in their wake, The same chaos they sought to conquer took root. The world they mapped in gold and blood was the star's reflection, an ever-expanding pattern of order, fracturing into entropy, civilization born from ruin, repeated. In the East, empires saw the symbol differently. The Ottomans used variations of it in architecture and textiles, where it represented divine unity. Scholars of Persia called it the seal of infinite return, a meditation on creation's unending rhythm. In India, mystics associated its form with the mandala of cosmic law, where every path returns to its beginning. Across continents, the meaning diverged yet converged again. The star represented continuity through transformation. What many don't see is that chaos and unity are not opposites. They are each other's reflection. Every empire that grasped the symbol sought permanence and found motion. As Europe entered its age of discovery, the star became the cartographer's secret. Engraved upon maps, it symbolized direction, exploration, and the illusion of control. Mariners believed the 8 arms mirrored the winds that carried them beyond the edge of the world. Yet every voyage toward knowledge carried the same risk as the symbol's promise: expansion into uncertainty. The explorers found new worlds, but they also found themselves mirrored in chaos, discovering that no matter how far they sailed, the unknown only widened. You must understand, the star's law is simple. All paths outward eventually become paths home. In the courts of Europe, philosophers debated whether chaos could serve progress. They saw in the symbol a metaphor for revolution, the breaking of old structures to forge new ones. Artists painted it above allegorical scenes of rebirth. Poets invoked it as the emblem of imagination unbound. Yet beneath the beauty, the old warning persisted. The same chaos that fuels creation devours complacency. Every age that claims enlightenment stands one step away from its own undoing. The star of chaos, silent but watchful, does not choose sides. It simply reminds the world that nothing, not even reason, escapes the law of flux. In the colonies, the symbol's meaning twisted further. Missionaries adopted it as a mark of divine light spreading to darkened lands, never seeing that their conquest mirrored the very force they condemned. The indigenous peoples, recognizing its deeper resonance, merged it with their own cosmologies. Among the tribes of the Andes, it was reinterpreted as the wheel of renewal. Among African mystics, as the eye of the ancestors. The symbol adapted, surviving through reinterpretation. You must understand, chaos is not disorder. It is adaptation itself. Every culture that embraces the star unknowingly confirms its truth. To endure is to transform. Throughout the 17th and 18th centuries, revolutions erupted under banners inspired by the star. Enlightenment thinkers saw it as emblem of human potential, the spread of knowledge from a central flame. Yet as nations rose from the ashes of monarchy, they repeated the same mistake as kings, mistaking expansion for freedom. The eightfold symmetry of their ideals fractured into greed, division, and control. The star once again fulfilled its paradox: hope and ruin intertwined. What many don't see is that progress, unbalanced, becomes tyranny reborn. The symbol never lies. It only reflects the nature of those who invoke its name. By the end of Empire's age, the star of chaos had traveled farther than any god or gospel. It had been sainted and condemned, carved into marble and inked upon flesh. Each civilization interpreted it through its own longing, for order, for power, for transcendence. Yet the symbol remained unchanged. The eightfold pattern still reached outward, whispering its single, eternal truth, that every creation carries its collapse within. You must understand, the star is neither omen nor idol. It is memory, a remembrance that from the first moment of light, the universe has been teaching one lesson. Perfection is the slowest form of decay. With the collapse of empires and the birth of modernity, the star of chaos rose once more, its light refracted through invention and ideology. Factories replaced temples, laboratories replaced cathedrals, but the human hunger for symbols endured. You must understand, even progress requires mythology. The eightfold pattern appeared in the emblems of nations, in the insignias of armies, in the secret seals of new orders that sought to redefine civilization. To the modern eye, it was geometry. To the unseen, it was prophecy. The same lines that once guided mystics now mapped the machinery of power, industry, and revolution. In the Age of Enlightenment, scholars called it coincidence. Yet behind every coincidence, the pattern persisted. The architects of early republics used it in their designs. Capitals, courthouses, observatories, all built upon eightfold symmetry. The star became a quiet statement of cosmic order in a world rejecting divine authority. Scientists traced its form in molecular lattices and planetary motion. Psychologists saw it in the structures of thought itself, the way the mind radiates from center to chaos. What many don't see is that modern reason merely rediscovered ancient revelation, that the laws of motion and the laws of mind are one and the same. As the industrial age deepened, the star found a new shape in machinery. Engineers saw in its symmetry a model for balance, strength, and expansion. Its form echoed in engines, turbines, and weaponry, tools of creation and destruction. The symbol of divine motion now fueled the age of progress, yet the price remained unchanged. For every innovation, a shadow emerged: pollution, greed, war. Humanity's inventions mimicked the eightfold expansion, each new frontier scattering stability further outward. You must understand, technology is chaos given structure. The same symbol that once mapped the heavens now turned within, mapping the labyrinth of human ambition. Artists of the 20th century rediscovered the star as aesthetic prophecy. Painters broke form into geometry, poets into rhythm, composers into dissonance, all reflecting the same cosmic pattern: order dissolving into freedom. The symbol appeared in surrealist canvases, in mandalas drawn by dreamers seeking transcendence, in architecture that spiraled like galaxies. They called it modernism, but it was older than thought. The star had simply changed its palette. What many don't see is that art itself is chaos tamed for a heartbeat, a mirror of the eternal struggle to find meaning in flux. Every creation trembles between order's cage and freedom's abyss. As politics grew restless, the symbol returned once again to banners. Revolutionaries adopted the eightfold geometry as sign of liberation. Totalitarians inverted it as emblem of control. Both saw what they desired, a mirror for their conviction. The same symbol that once united opposites now divided nations. Propaganda artists simplified its shape, stamping it upon flags and uniforms. They did not know they were invoking an ancient pattern that devours certainty. The more tightly regimes tried to control the world, the more their systems resembled the star itself, radiating outward, fragmenting endlessly, until collapse restored the cycle once more. You must understand, chaos does not vanish in modern times. It evolves. In the era of global communication, the star became invisible yet omnipresent. Its shape lived in the circuits of microchips, in the algorithms guiding invisible networks. The eightfold expansion of data mirrored the same motion as galaxies. Humanity had finally built a machine that thought like chaos, spreading, replicating, connecting everything and nothing. Philosophers warned that consciousness itself might dissolve into digital infinity, but they misunderstood the lesson. The star of chaos has always been the architect of evolution, pushing every system, biological, mechanical, spiritual, toward transformation through instability. In the realm of psychology, the symbol returned as archetype. Jungian scholars saw it in dreams, where minds unravel and reform. Therapists sketched it to explain the 8 paths of individuation, the journey through fear, loss, shadow, and unity. It became the shape of awakening, disguised as fracture. What many don't see is that chaos is not a disease. It is renewal disguised as madness. The star taught that disintegration precedes wholeness, that the psyche must scatter to reassemble. Modern man, stripped of myth yet haunted by it, rediscovers the old truth. To evolve is to let go of coherence. The postmodern age, drenched in irony, turned the star into a brand. Corporations adopted it, ignorant of its legacy. It glimmered upon logos, packaging, and screens, promising innovation while echoing the ancient hum of imbalance. The consumer world worshipped motion without meaning, expansion without reflection. Yet the pattern persisted beneath the noise. Every advertisement, every digital icon, repeated the eightfold truth, that creation cannot stop creating. You must understand, even commerce bows to chaos. The marketplace, like the cosmos, thrives on perpetual transformation. In its reflection, humanity has built temples of consumption that unknowingly worship the same endless cycle. In war, too, the symbol resurfaced. Soldiers carried it upon badges and machines, unaware of its irony. The star that once represented unity now marked the engines of division. Yet war has always been chaos's most honest expression. The old gods of strife simply changed uniforms. Military strategists spoke of the fog of war, not realizing they were describing the same principle that birthed the universe. Order shatters, new order emerges, blood becomes seed. The pattern repeats. What many don't see is that destruction is not chaos's goal, it is its method. Renewal arrives only through collapse. That is its covenant. And so, in the modern world, the star of chaos has woven itself into everything: religion, art, politics, technology, psychology. It no longer belongs to temples or thrones, but to consciousness itself. Its 8 arms reach through every aspect of civilization, reminding us that progress and peril are one. You must understand, the symbol's persistence is no accident. It is destiny's handwriting. Humanity may believe it commands chaos, but chaos has always commanded evolution. The star endures because it is not history's relic. It is history's architect, forever expanding, forever fracturing, forever reborn in the restless pulse of human creation. In the quiet aftermath of progress, when the machines grow still and the lights hum like distant stars, the star of chaos awakens again. Not in temples or laboratories, but within the human soul. It is the symbol that waits behind every moment of awakening, the silent architecture of transformation. You must understand, the psyche is the final empire. Its borders are infinite, its revolutions eternal. The eightfold geometry now maps the inward journey: fear, memory, dream, loss, desire, surrender, revelation, and peace. To travel these paths is to confront the original law, that chaos is the root language of becoming. What many don't see is that modern spirituality did not kill the old gods, it internalized them. The forces once worshipped in storms and stars now stir in the chambers of consciousness. The star of chaos became a mandala for this age of introspection, each point a stage of self-dissolution. In meditation, seekers envision its expanding arms, feeling their awareness scatter before reassembling around a center they can never reach. It is not a symbol to master, but to endure. For enlightenment, like chaos, is not stability achieved. It is surrender accepted, the realization that the soul thrives through perpetual change. Psychologists describe the same motion in new language. They call it individuation, integration, awakening, the process by which the fragmented self gathers its pieces. Yet the map remains the same. The star of chaos is the blueprint of this inner reconstruction. Each arm mirrors attention, the conscious and unconscious, reason and instinct, shadow and light. You must understand, healing is not the return to order, but the acceptance of motion. The balanced mind does not silence chaos. It dances with it. Every thought, every emotion, every memory becomes one ray within the eternal geometry of the human condition. In the age of anxiety, when humanity stares into its own reflection and calls it void, the star appears again as solace. It teaches that fear of disorder is fear of life itself. The eightfold pattern becomes a meditation on impermanence, a reminder that collapse is part of creation. Spiritual teachers across traditions, from mystic Christians to Zen masters, unknowingly echo its lesson. Breathe, let go, return. To align with the star is to cease fighting the current. What many don't see is that peace is not the absence of chaos. It is its acceptance, the calm found within the spiral. The mystic poets understood this long ago. They wrote of the divine as motion, of God as breath, expanding endlessly through form and formlessness. They saw in the star of chaos the sacred paradox of love, that to truly unite, one must first dissolve. Rumi's whirling dance, the Sufi's spinning ecstasy, the Buddhist wheel of Dharma, all echo the same geometry. The universe, they whispered, is not static perfection, but perpetual surrender. You must understand, the star is love without boundary, devotion without destination. It reminds us that divinity does not dwell in control, but in the fearless unfolding of transformation. In the fractured modern psyche, the star has become a mirror of identity. Social systems, beliefs, and digital reflections pull the self in 8 directions at once. Yet beneath this fragmentation lies opportunity. The star teaches that confusion is the birthplace of clarity. Each tension, each contradiction is an invitation to awaken. Those who meditate upon its form learn the sacred rhythm of undoing, the art of dissolving certainty to make room for truth. For the self that resists chaos remains unformed. Only the one that shatters willingly discovers its own infinite shape within the cosmic pattern of renewal. Contemporary mysticism calls this the age of returning symbols. The star reappears in therapy sessions, in yoga studios, in visions born of solitude. It is no longer seen as demonic, but dynamic, a guide through uncertainty. Psychonauts and dreamers glimpse it during altered states, describing it as a radiant compass of pure consciousness. They call it the gateway, the infinite flower, the pattern that breathes. You must understand, the star does not belong to belief. It belongs to experience. It awakens when the mind becomes still enough to perceive its own rhythm, the pulse of chaos within every heartbeat of existence. What many don't see is that the spiritual meaning of the star has never changed. It has merely become more intimate. Where once it mapped the heavens, now it maps the heart. Its eightfold arms stretch across inner worlds, illuminating paths through despair and revelation alike. Those who follow its geometry learn that faith is not certainty, but trust in the unending flow. The star is the shape of surrender, the quiet knowledge that every fall is ascent in disguise. It speaks softly to those who listen, break beautifully, rebuild endlessly. The pattern continues. In that whisper, awakening begins. Throughout modern spirituality, the star of chaos has transcended doctrine. It unites mystics, atheists, and seekers beneath one truth, that all systems, sacred or secular, dissolve into experience. The symbol becomes the teacher of paradox. It tells the scientist and the monk the same secret. Creation is chaos organized by compassion. To live is to participate in that dance. The enlightened mind does not flee from disarray, but shapes it, breath by breath. You must understand, the highest wisdom is not found in silence or certainty, but in the courage to remain conscious while everything changes around you. And so, in this modern spirit, the star of chaos reveals its gentlest face. No longer an omen of ruin, it becomes the emblem of awakening. Each point radiates a stage of human realization, each arm a reminder that we are never separate from the motion we fear. It whispers that divinity is not above but within, the quiet spark that endures through collapse and creation alike. You must understand, the star is not calling for worship, but remembrance. For within its infinite geometry lies the oldest truth. The light you seek has always been shining from your own center. In the age of endless connection, humanity stands beneath invisible constellations of data, and the star of chaos burns among them. It no longer glows in the heavens, but in the circuitry of our collective mind. Each arm mirrors a network, a movement, a voice, calling into the digital storm. You must understand, this is not progress, it is return. The same geometry that guided shamans now defines satellites and social webs. Our species has built a machine that breathes like chaos, dreaming of unity while fracturing into 1,000 reflections. The star smiles, for it recognizes its pattern in us. What many don't see is that the modern world, for all its order, is an empire of flux. Nations rise and dissolve, ideologies clash and merge, cultures intertwine like spiraling arms of a galactic mandala. The star of chaos has become the unspoken emblem of this age. Motion without rest, communication without conclusion. It reveals our paradox, that the more we connect, the more we divide. Each interaction is another ray reaching outward, each opinion another axis of creation. You must understand, unity was never meant to erase difference. The cosmos thrives through tension. Humanity's challenge is to do the same. In the laboratories of modern thought, scientists chase the star's secret through equations and simulations. Chaos theory maps the same curves carved by ancient mystics, the delicate balance between randomness and order. Fractals bloom across screens like digital prophecies, proving what the ancients already knew, that infinite complexity emerges from simple laws. The eightfold symmetry becomes a metaphor for systems that self-organize, for nature's quiet intelligence. You must understand, science and mysticism are no longer opposites. They are the same language spoken in different tempos. Each reveals the same law. Chaos is not failure. It is the pulse of creation. Philosophers, too, return to the star when meaning collapses. They speak of postmodern uncertainty, of truths fractured into perspectives. Yet this fragmentation is not doom, it is evolution. The star of chaos teaches that multiplicity is divine. The many are the face of the one seen through the prism of time. What many don't see is that disillusionment is the first step to wisdom. To lose certainty is to find freedom. The symbol reminds us that existence is not a puzzle to be solved, but a rhythm to be lived, a symphony of contradictions playing forever into itself. Within art, chaos has become muse and mirror. The abstract and the surreal reflect our collective psyche, a civilization aware of its instability, yet unwilling to return to illusion. The star appears in film, literature, and design, not as decoration, but as confession. It is the emblem of the age that knows too much and believes too little. Every creator, knowingly or not, traces its pattern: expansion, tension, release. You must understand, creation is how the universe remembers itself. Through brush, word, and melody, humanity participates in the same act of divine disorder that first birthed the stars themselves. In psychology, the star has re-emerged as a symbol of collective healing. Therapists speak of global trauma, of societies fractured by speed and alienation. Yet the symbol offers an answer hidden in its very form: integration through motion. Healing does not come by restoring the old order, but by learning to move with change. Each arm of the star represents an aspect of the global self: individual, community, nature, technology, past, future, fear, and hope. To reconcile them is to rediscover balance. You must understand, the age of chaos is not punishment. It is initiation into planetary consciousness. In spirituality's new frontier, seekers abandon temples for transcendence through experience. They gather beneath open skies, meditate in silence, or journey through vision. Many describe seeing the same symbol glowing within their minds, the eightfold pattern turning like a living compass. They call it the mandala of becoming, the infinite mirror. To them, it is not dogma, but dialogue, the conversation between human and cosmos. What many don't see is that faith was never meant to be fixed. The star whispers the forgotten truth: belief is movement, not monument. To follow the divine is to walk willingly into uncertainty's light. Technology has made the symbol literal. From the structure of networks to the spin of galaxies, from data clusters to the neurons of the brain, the same geometry recurs. The cosmos speaks through repetition. The star of chaos is no longer myth, it is code, the universal equation written in every layer of existence. You must understand, humanity stands at a threshold. We are becoming the pattern we once feared. Our civilization mirrors the cosmos, alive, unpredictable, and self-aware. The old prophecy fulfills itself: chaos and consciousness entwined, birthing a new species that learns through its own endless transformation. What many don't see is that meaning itself has become chaos's latest creation. The symbols of the past crumble, yet new myths rise from the fragments. The star endures because it adapts. It breathes with us. In every revolution, every innovation, every act of rebellion, its light flickers. It teaches that destiny is not written, but woven, strand by strand, by countless minds in motion. You must understand, the age of order has ended not in despair, but in revelation. The chaos that frightened our ancestors is now the canvas upon which the human spirit paints its next evolution. And so, as the 21st century unfolds, the star of chaos hovers above the horizon of human destiny, no longer feared, but studied, admired, embraced. It has transformed from omen to oracle. Its eightfold arms no longer point to destruction, but to possibility. In the hum of cities and the quiet of minds, its rhythm continues: expansion, fragmentation, renewal. You must understand, The star was never outside us. It has always been the shape of our becoming. Through its geometry, the universe whispers, "You are the motion you call chaos. You are the pattern you call divine." The spiral continues. At last, we arrive where all stories converge. The center. For every symbol, every empire, every soul that has chased the star of chaos eventually returns here, to the still point beneath motion. You must understand, the star's lesson was never about power or prophecy. It was about recognition. The eightfold arms, reaching endlessly outward, have always been reflections of the mind's own search for meaning. Humanity has wandered across continents, across time, across belief, and found only itself. The star is not a commandment carved in light. It is a mirror waiting for the moment when we dare to look. What many don't see is that chaos was never enemy nor God. It was truth. The universe began in expansion, and we are its echo. Every atom in our blood hums with the same restless pulse. The star's geometry is the language of existence, a reminder that creation thrives through motion, not perfection. The ancients carved it to understand the heavens. The mystics drew it to understand the soul. Now, we trace it through the circuits of our own consciousness. And in every age, it whispers the same message, that to live is to embrace the exquisite uncertainty of becoming. Throughout history, we have feared disorder because it shatters the illusion of control. Yet what we call chaos is only the universe speaking in its native tongue. The star teaches that entropy is not the death of order, but its renewal. What collapses makes room for what must emerge. Like the spiral of galaxies, the fall and rise are one gesture. You must understand, there is no final order, only rhythm. The heartbeat of existence depends upon tension, contrast, and release. To seek stability forever is to resist life itself. Every stillness eventually learns to move again, or fade into silence. In this revelation, the star of chaos becomes scripture without religion, philosophy without doctrine. Its arms do not dictate, they invite, each ray a direction through which consciousness may unfold, the path of reason, of passion, of loss, of creation. There is no hierarchy among them, for all are necessary. The cosmos does not choose one over another, it only dances. The star's wisdom is not instruction, but participation. To walk its lines is to join the eternal dialogue between what is and what will be. You must understand, the sacred is not distant. It trembles within every act of change. When humanity finally sees this, the old wars between order and chaos dissolve. We understand that both are lovers, eternally intertwined. The destruction we feared was merely transformation misunderstood. The creation we worshipped was only the continuation of ruin's grace. The star of chaos, once painted as darkness, is revealed as balance, an emblem of divine impartiality. It reminds us that the universe does not choose sides. It creates both storm and calm, life and decay, joy and sorrow in the same breath. To reject one is to blind oneself to the other. Wholeness demands the courage to hold both. In this understanding, the star becomes personal again. It is no longer the emblem of empires or philosophies, but the map of the soul's pilgrimage. Each of us is a point upon its endless geometry. Each life a ray expanding from the mystery of origin. The trials we endure, the love we give, the losses we suffer, all a motion within that divine pattern. You must understand, meaning is not granted from beyond. It is made through experience. The star shows that every struggle is creation in disguise, every fall a step within a larger rhythm that guides us toward awareness. What many don't see is that humanity's destiny was never conquest of chaos, but communion with it. The old myths told of heroes who fought the void. The new myth must tell of those who learn to listen to it. Chaos is the teacher of humility, reminding us that existence owes nothing, that creation is free because it cannot be contained. The star is the invitation to participate in that freedom. To live without fear of collapse is to finally see beauty for what it is, impermanent, fragile, radiant. The divine does not dwell in eternity. It dances in change. As civilization evolves, the star remains, waiting in the background of every discovery. It does not fade because it is the pattern of evolution itself. From cells dividing to galaxies expanding, from thought to language, from grief to forgiveness, everything follows its rhythm. And so, the final revelation is simple. Chaos is the signature of consciousness. Without it, there is no growth, no wonder, no self. You must understand, perfection was never the goal. Continuation is. The star's glow is not the promise of peace, but of persistence, the assurance that even in ruin, something always begins again. Through the lens of eternity, the star of chaos is not a warning, but a comfort. It tells us that uncertainty is sacred, that every ending conceals a new genesis. The ancients feared it, the mystics revered it, the modern world unknowingly embodies it. And now, in this age of reflection, we can finally name it for what it is, the pulse of divine becoming. The cosmos does not demand our worship, only our wonder. You must understand, to live in harmony with the star is to breathe in rhythm with the universe, to surrender to the eternal unfolding of now. And so the story closes, not with conclusion, but with continuation. The star of chaos burns still, silent and patient, etched across the soul of creation. It is not prophecy, nor curse, nor creed. It is the memory of movement, the promise that nothing ends, only transforms. Its light is the same that guided the ancients, the same that flickers behind every human thought. You must understand, the final truth is not hidden. It has always been before you. For the star of chaos is the universe remembering itself, forever whispering. From disorder comes becoming, and in becoming, eternity begins anew.